Hi, I'm Dr. Richard Visser. I spent my whole life in the pursuit of health, well being, and longevity. In this podcast, I will take you on a journey through the wilderness of scientific research and experiential knowledge. Together, we will clear a path towards optimal health, well being, and longevity. Welcome to the Visser Podcast. This is episode 4. Today we'll continue from episode 3 and talk and look at nutrition and diet, which is, as you know, not straightforward. It's a problem we have in most countries. It's a problem we have with our kids and our families, and it's the cause of most chronic diseases. So here we go. Let's do a deep dive. So we're going to start at the basis, just a couple of terms that you need to know that we can go over. The first one is energy balance, and you've heard this. The energy you put in needs to be equal to the energy you release, your body releases, so that your weight can stay stable. If that equation changes, then you either gain weight or lose weight, and it's not that straightforward. We all know this. If it was that simple, we'd resolve a lot of problems, but it's not. So in order to do a deep dive, first we have to go through kind of a concept, calories. I mean, we see it on labels, we see it everywhere. Everyone's talking calories, count your calories, etc. And really what they're talking about is kilocalories. So officially it's kilocalories. And kilocalorie is basically 1 kilocalorie is 4.184 joules, which is the amount of heat. So it's the energy and heat. And it's the amount of heat that it takes to raise 1 kilogram of water, 1 degree, so from 3.5 to 4.5 degrees of Celsius in an environment of 1 atmosphere. So are all calories equal? We hear this too. Kilocalories are equal. So the energy measurement, kilocalories, is equal. However, if we look at the kilocalories in food and drinks, liquids, what we take into our body doesn't interpret or convert equally. So our body is where all of a sudden the calories are not equal. You have good calories, you have empty calories, you have bad calories. So we're going to look at that in a sec. So when we look at how the body takes in food, let's look at food first. So the food gets broken down into large polymer molecules. These large polymer molecules, when we chew, enzymes in our mouth, it goes to our stomach. Anyway, that gets broken down into monomer subunits. And these are like proteins to amino acids, polysaccharides into sugars, fat into fatty acids, and glycerol. So when it starts going into our mouth, then into the stomach, small intestines, large intestines, and of course you got a couple of organs that play a part within the small intestines for digestion. Then we start in the second part of the breakdown, and this part starts in the cytosol and ends in the mitochondria. So in the second part, we're looking at major energy converting. The organelles break down simple subunits to acetyl-CoA, accompanied by limited amounts of ATP and NADH. So already, right, ATP is what we need for energy, NADH. We see the glycolysis here, and this is already starting to produce that energy that we need to basically run our body, to run the cells in our body. This is the energy. The ATP is what we need. So we have a little bit of it in stage 2. In stage 3, is completely in the mitochondrial. So oxidation of this acetyl-CoA to H2O, water, and CO2. And a large amount of ATP and NADH, and this is the Krebs cycle, gets released. The ATP is used to drive the biosynthetic reaction and other energy needs of the body. What the body doesn't use gets stored in the glycogen or as fat. Brings us to our next issue. How much is stored depends also not only on the amount of kilocalories intake, which is usually the issue nowadays, but it also depends on the hormonal interplay with the foods we eat. So highly processed foods, simple carbohydrates, etc., your soft drinks, your fast food, your potato chips, that kind of stuff, your sugars, cakes, whatever. This stuff just, has a negative effect on our health. And we know this. The sugars, simple carbs, basically what happens is not only these are a lot of times empty calories coming in, but they actually spike our insulin. So when they spike our insulin, and you've heard of this, there becomes all of a sudden a complete interplay on what this food means to our body. To monitor the interplay, we've basically created the glycemic index. And the glycemic index is looking at, what foods and how they trigger our body's hormonal system. So the glycemic index was created. When we look at the index, we're seeing 70 to 100 can cause power spikes in blood sugar, which leads to increased risk of type 2 diabetes and coronary heart disease. So these spikes are not only bad for our weight, but they're very bad for our health. So we need to keep those down. So the glycemic index is one of those things, and you can look it up. You're going to have list of foods there that have a high glycemic index. And so we want to steer away from those. But some of those foods we like, some of those things. So I think every individual should get tested. If you have a couple of things that you really like, get tested. See what it does to your glycemic index, because we're different. We have the microbiome that plays a big role here. And if you remember in my previous episodes, I think it's the third episode, we talked about the study done on the twins where you had both of them drinking Prosecco, both of them being measured. The thinner twin could drink the Prosecco. There was no spike in insulin. The sister that was a little fuller got a spike like she was going into type 2 diabetic shock almost. So individually, this can be different, and this is due to a big role of the microbiome. So we really have to test. So some of us like to have wine, some of us like to, and by the way, wine is good. We'll talk about that, and this is one of the reasons where everyone's really looking at the Mediterranean diet, because you got the polyphenols and in wine, which are good, and in the olive oil and all that stuff. So we're going to look at that a little bit later, but let's get back to this. Let's get back to the glycemic index. So the second most important thing, so we see that and we know that it's individualized. So we have to really look at, if I want to have bread once in a while, if I want to have something to eat, there's ways to do it, but I need to see how my body reacts. And so it's good to know how our body reacts. It's all individual. So here's the second most important problem. How much energy your body is able to liberate from the food depends on the gut biome. And we talked a lot about the gut biome. It is diverse. It is feeding on fiber, fermented foods, and our gut biome is affected by a lot of stuff. But the gut biome is, as we know, is super important for our health, our immune system, cancer fighting, to be able to, give us the essential vitamins that we need, breakdown of food. So the gut biome is critical at all parts. And it's different everywhere, but especially in our intestines and our large intestines where, we get to the trillions of microbes. Really, we have to look at this kind of separately and know that, okay, we have to feed the microbiome in our gut. We have to be able to protect it. So stuff like antibiotics kills it, NSAIDs kill it, chronic use of antacids kill it. So we really have to talk to our physician about when we do this. If you need antacids, then go short term. Make sure your stomach heals, and then you move forward and you change the way you eat. Listen, 1 in 1,000 people has chronic, over acid production. So you're probably not one of them. Okay, so this over acid production, and it's just an old wives' tale. Okay, so really we need to look at, okay, what is triggering this in our bodies? What is triggering? Why am I reacting this way? So we need to look at, are we allergic to some stuff that we're intaking? So really talk to a nutritionist, talk to your physician, and get that looked at. Antibiotics, really, it's up to your physician, but if you really need them, take them. Don't use them like candy. NSAID's the same thing. But the antibiotics, we know, wipes your gut biome clean. So you really have to do a process afterwards where you build it back up, you build back the diversity, and you make them healthy again, because it'll affect you chronically if you don't. So we know that everyone has unique gut biome, depending from where you were born, where you raised, what foods you ate, your environment. Everyone, period, has a unique gut biome. And we have to diversify that as much as possible. So really, we need to consume much more fiber across the board. We need to consume fermented foods, which has shown to basically diversify our microbiome, which is key. I think I got that point across. The third lever is how many calories we eat daily. And are there empty calories? What type of calories? What's the quality of calories that we're consuming? So on the average, you have the 2,400 for a man, 2,000 for a woman. No one's average, okay? You're an athlete, you're young, you got a high metabolism, you exercise like a nut, you're a distance runner, or you're a power lifter. It's all different, okay? So we really have to look at our own needs there. This just gives you a general, very average guideline. And as inaccurate as this may be, why is it inaccurate? Well, labels are inaccurate, up to 20%, I believe. All the meters that you have out there are inaccurate. Your little watch, your whole thing of how many calories you burn, it's inaccurate. But if that's what you're using, keep using it and compare it. We need something to compare it to. We need to know if we're doing more or less. Don't take it to the letter because it's not accurate. And also what you see on labels when you buy food or when you get food, it's not that accurate. So really have that in mind, but still monitor it. So don't go, oh, because it's not accurate, I'm not gonna, why do we even monitor? Why do we even give? No, we still need to do this. So we're gonna talk a little bit about what to do in as far as weight control, what to do, as far as getting our optimum health. But before that, I want to take a little piece, and we'll go back on what I'm about to talk about in a greater detail in our next session. But I just want to touch some stuff, and that is energy out. And we'll go back to energy going in. Okay, so I'm just jumping ahead here. What are the variables that make everyone and us different? So we talked about the three things with calories in, or with food and drinks, that makes it different. So with exercise, or with energy out, sorry that I said exercise, I mean exercise, I mean with energy out, how much energy we put out. Why are we so different? Well, if we look, at 4 factors that determine energy out. The first one, BMR, basal metabolic rate. That's the minimum energy needed to keep our body running. So it's like, keep the lights on kind of thing. And that's different with everyone. It's between 50 and 70% of the energy we expend, period. It's a lot. Okay, so And this is different with everyone. You have people that are naturally just high metabolic. You see them, they sweat more. They're leaner. They can eat stuff and it just goes. It just evaporates. You don't know where it's going. You eat the same and you become a fat, obese pig. I'm talking about myself here. Okay, so the second one is diet-induced thermogenesis, or TDF. That's 5 to 10% of daily expenditure. And it is macronutrient dependent. So it's really dependent on what you're eating. And that's how much energy goes into basically digestion and turning food into energy. So that's TDF. Number 3 is very interesting, and it's NEAT. NEAT is non-exercise activity thermogenesis. So these are spontaneous fidgeters, people that just sit there and you see their leg moving or their hands moving constantly. They're just fidgeting with their hands, their feet, and it's unconscious. Okay, they're not aware of it. But this actually burns quite a bit of energy. And if you look at overweight people, if you look at obese people, they move much less. They don't fidget. They sit very still. So it's a huge thing. But NEAT is something, we can't really control. You can't go, okay, I'm going to do NEAT. No, you can't. You can't. It's just, that's what it is. So this is one that we look at. And number 4, of course, exercise. Probably the most important thing we can do for ourselves. And we have full control over it. It's the key to our metabolic health, well-being, and longevity. And we're going to have a whole episode on that, or more, much more. Okay, but we're going to start with one. So when we look at these two sides, and this is why I wanted to bring up exercise just kind of a little bit, just to touch upon it, because we talked about energy and don't count on exercise to lose weight. You will need to do some sort of dietary restriction to lose weight. Listen very well to that. So you're not going to lose weight by going crazy on a treadmill or going running. Yes, it helps. It's good for your health. Great. But where you're going to lose it is by some kind of restriction. Okay, it doesn't have to be calorie, but we'll talk about what these could be. So before we even start anything, we should establish a baseline. Okay, how many kilocalories am I consuming? Just on a daily basis, on a weekly basis. What is the quality of these calories? And how much movement and exercise am I getting? Without changing anything. I mean, even do it worse than you're thinking you should do it. Because as soon as you get monitored, as soon as a nutritionist or your physician starts following you, you start changing stuff. Because someone's following you. That's just how we are. So don't do that. Keep keep it real. Do what you do. Drink your wine, drink your beer, drink your whatever, do your snacks, and really form a base. This is critical if we want change. So the baseline is huge. The other thing that you should do once a year, at least, is just do a complete blood lab. If you're above 50 or in the 40s and above 50, it should include a hormone panel as well. Just to look at, for males, what are my hormones doing? For females, am I premenopausal? Is it already starting? Are there things I could do? And I think one of the other things, if you have a chance to do this or to do part of it, do gene sequencing to look at hereditary health, issues that could arise for you later on in life. And right now, we're at a point where we can see that. So those two together can give you a really, really good view in the future, a reality check, and also motivate you to make those key changes that you need to make to actually have a better health, monitor it on a yearly basis or bi-yearly basis, have the well-being you want and the longevity you want. And, when we look and review the literature on people that have lost weight and kept it off, we really see a couple of things. It's not the weight, what do you call that? The diet they were on. Nothing to do with the diet. We've seen people on every single diet, lose weight and keep it off. So the people that systematically kept it off, it was basically environment, habits they built, and their behavior that drove it. So these are the things that were changed, were kept, were held on to, and these are the people that actually were successful. So when we talk about losing weight, or, because a lot of us are, most of us are dealing with that. And as we age, it gets worse. We have to keep our protein the same or higher. So we need a complete protein panel. I mean, if you go vegetarian, vegan, whatever, make sure all your proteins are getting in there. If you have to supplement with whey protein, do it. There's also vegan whey protein. So there are options there, but you have to do it. It's critical. Our protein needs to either stay the same or go higher. So your choices are, do I go with a low-fat diet? Do I go with a low-carb diet? Do I go with a balanced diet? That's the trickiest of them all, because the balanced diet sounds good and it's the one we recommend, and for kids it's the perfect thing, but as you get older, it's very hard to do restrictions in a balanced diet, because then you got to count calories and it becomes a complex thing. But if that's your thing, go ahead. And the last one that is pretty much in and has had good reviews is restricting the time restricting diets, like a 16-8 fasting. So you're restricting the time of feeding, and which will get you to eat less, consume less, and again drop that, have that restriction be in. So I think the biggest thing, the big question to you is, which one of these is the least restrictive to you? Which one can you do for life? That's the question. Start there. Try them out. Try them all out, and see which one you say, hey, I could do this for life. And then we need to make sure that within that, our protein stays high. Fiber needs to be high. Introduce some fermented products. Kimchi, I've had the list. I've showed you the list before, and you can look it up. So really to focus on the gut biome and keep that healthy, because that's a critical part in not only our health, but also our diet. So as we age, what is the most critical lever that we need to protect, that we need to pull, that we need to be on? That critical lever is strength. Strength, muscle mass. So we really need to look at this. Strength and muscle mass plays such a crucial role in health, well-being, and longevity. Resistance training becomes key. I think a minimum of 3 times a week, 15 minutes. Flexibility and cardio are to be incorporated, either on separate days or after strength training. Listen to me, dear. After strength training, and we'll talk about why that is. But really, I wanted to finish out with our diet and nutrition. So always talk to your physician. Go to a nutritionist. Go to someone that knows what they're doing. Get guidance with physical activity. One of the people that I follow that I think is phenomenal is Peter Attia, Dr. Peter Attia. You can find him on YouTube. And really look at, as we age, we're gonna need muscle mass. We're gonna need strength and muscle mass. We're gonna need it. There's not one 80-year-old or 90-year-old that's saying, you know what, I've got too much muscle mass. No one's ever said that. If you look at why we die when we get older, it's from falls. It's from being brittle. It's from bad metabolism. And we need muscles to do this. So the only thing after 35 that starts going down is our muscle. Okay, fat can come anytime and keeps coming. Muscle is the issue. So we need to protect that. We need to keep that as high as possible. We need to optimize that. This is one of the biggest age management longevity hacks there is. So really get away from, things of, I'm going to get too big. It's like people saying, I don't want to get too rich. You're not going to get too big. Okay. People are out there training every day, 6 hours a day, doing the most massive ways to gain weight. Okay. As long as you're not doing massive cycles of steroids and crazy stuff like that, you're not going to get big. And that's also for the women. We need to do strength training. It is critical. And as we get older, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, this is key. Key. And what I want to do here is make you into a 90-year-old athlete. So this is how we start. Thank you. Subscribe, ring the bell notification, and we'll see you next time when we'll go further into it and we'll go into exercise. Thank you.